right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday Night Rewind. With it being Memorial Day, we are going to take a moment and remember those who we have lost, sacrificing their life so that we can live our freedoms today. All right, again, thank you guys, and welcome to the Monday Night Rewind. Tonight we have a packed show with two amazing guests coming up, and here in just a few moments we have Will Greenwell from the Wild Will Throwdown. He's also the voice over at Salem Speedway, and you can hear him in a lot of different places, and he's been on all the major streaming platforms at some point in his career, and so excited to have someone of his caliber on here. So if you know anyone who's an announcer at a racetrack, tonight might be the night to tag him in the comments and say, hey, come on and listen. And just in case you have questions, to learn from one of the best in the business. And then last Friday night, it was a historic night at the Kalamazoo Speedway. And for a track that's now on its 76th season, for the first time ever, the youngest late model driver at 14 years old, Mason Metzger, won the late model feature, beating a lot of talented drivers who are right behind him. So again, he will come on at 8:05. We're so excited for that and to celebrate his big win and his big moment this past Friday night at the Kalamazoo Speedway. Don't forget, this Thursday night, you can throttle up with us on a Thursday Night Throttle, where Boozoo and I come back and we preview the upcoming weekend, not only the schedule from around the area, but the storylines heading into the weekend. And this is another busy weekend where we have quite a few Sunday shows that are also on tap at a couple different locations in Michigan. And then, of course, like I said, we do have Will Greenwell with us, and he has the Wild Will Throwdown. So I want to do, as mankind would say, a cheap plug time. And so definitely visit his, after he's done with us tonight, he's going to be recording his own podcast and getting some of those sections going. So definitely head on over to wildwillgreenwell.com to listen to his podcast covering regional news, track updates, and everything, especially down in Southern Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, and all of that. So again, excited to have him. And before I forget too, the marketing special is still going on. You have all the way through September 30th, where if you want to come on down to the sunny shores of Bridgman, Michigan, and have your car detailed, enjoy Waco Beach, where you can see the Chicago skyline right from our beachfront. You can come on down while that's getting detailed, go over Waco Beach, enjoy a day at the beach, come back when your car's all fresh and ready, and drive back home ready to go, having people do a double look to go, wow, is that brand new? Because I promise you, when ELH is done with it, they'll think it's new. We do, if you use the code Top Row, we're going to be giving away some details. So the first one will be on July 13th, right here in the Monday Night Rewind. And then again on October 12th, especially as we head into the winter months, they do a lot of different packages to get cars ready. But other than that, Boozoo, it is showtime. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Weather was kind of iffy this weekend. I did get a double header in, but chopped the feature off on Friday, and Saturday was Angola. And I think we started qualifying, I think 3 hours after race time was supposed to start. The mist just would not end. And kudos to them. They said they were getting the show in. They got the show in.
Oh, that's something that I know you had gone to Butler originally, and then you went the other direction. And so we had it at New Paris for the Night of Destruction. We were getting a little worried, but, with Night of Destructions, it's rain or shine.
Yeah.
And, we had a bunch of cars pulling into the pits. We had, of course, Wichter came down, and they had their whole deal going on. And so His next event will be at Hartford Speedway on June 13th, I believe that is. Saturday, June 13th, they'll be back in action. So Victor, of course, doing Victor things with Jeremy Templeton and Frank Gasco and Phillip. But again, it was a great show. But I know, obviously, we do rain or shine, but I know sitting over at Angola, just kind of waiting like, okay, anytime now. And the thing is, I went to the Matt Rudkin weather app, and he doesn't lie. His app wasn't even showing anything that was happening.
100% correct. Yeah, I was doing the same thing.
Yeah, like, come on, Will, or not Will. Will's our guest. Come on, Matt. You're letting us down. Like, out of every meteorologist, you're the one who we go to, and it's not showing anything on your app. So I wanted to almost protest that a little bit. But anyways, and I know Crashers was over at Sodbusters on Sunday, and they had a wicked flip there that he got a part of, and I know a couple other people got a part of. So I know it's a busy weekend in the area, but now you get to today and it's 82 degrees and sunny, and it's like, couldn't this have happened like 2 days ago and 3 days ago? But especially Kalamazoo Friday, again, once that sun went down and it got cloudy, it's like I was hot and sweaty, and now I'm cold and wearing my winter jacket. So I'm like, how did that happen that quick? And but that breeze comes off of Lake Michigan, and you just kind of pay for it. So but other than that, I know it was a great weekend. I'm excited to talk to Mason about his huge win, because that's been a long time coming for him. And so excited to have him on. But I know just before that, we have Will Greenwell. And I know I have been super excited for this for several weeks now. And finally, the time is here. So are you ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let me go ahead and bring on Will Greenwell. So again, Will, welcome to the Monday Night Rewind. How's your Monday going so far?
Well, guys, first and foremost, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here. Glad I could talk to you guys. I know you cover the Michigan part quite a bit, and that is awesome, because there are a ton of short tracks in Michigan that deserve the recognition. But first and foremost, I'm doing good. Great Memorial Day weekend. And first and foremost, as you know, with me and the veterans, this is a big holiday. Something for us to remember, and to realize that life is not that important at times when you think about the men and women who sacrifice. So first and foremost, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, again, I've been so excited when I reached out to you and say, hey, do you want to come on? And you were ready, and we didn't know whether we were going to do it on Monday or Tuesday at that point, but you had both days available, and it's like, man, I'm just so excited. So again, it's our honor to have you on. I mean, I got to meet you at Paynesville and hear you. And then that's how I got to know you and your work. And I followed you since then and keep up with what you're doing. And I mean, that's just where in the hour that we have, I mean, we have so much that we can touch within your career and all the opportunities that you've had, but then how you've also been able to build your platform and help veterans, and with your t-shirt sales and everything that you do. So we'll definitely get into that, and maybe how people might be able to get their hands on a t-shirt and help support that cause. So I'll just ask everyone, the easy thing to do is give this show a like, share it out, help us continue to grow. That's where we've been having a just really strong podcast week after week after week. So the more you like, the more you share, the more it helps us continue to grow this platform. So again, Will, I kind of gave you the heads up that, between Boozio and I, we're a shoot first, aim second kind of show, but I always start off with what some might call the softball question, right? But it really helps our listeners know, who are you, right? So who is Will Greenwell? How did you get into announcing? Boozio announced for the first time a couple weeks ago. He got
awesome
off the bench. And so, he's someone like, him and I are talking, you just don't grow announcers on trees. So if you want to give us a rundown of your background and your career.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I never expected to be an announcer or anything of that nature. Basically, what had happened was in 2019, I'll never forget it. I grew up going to the Louisville Motor Speedway in Louisville before it closed down. Then, of course, the Sportstrom Speedway right after, which is celebrating 80 years this year. So basically, April the 27th, I'll never forget it, in 2019, my father and I were going to Sportstrom Speedway as fans. We sat on the back straightaway, top row, and it got rained out that night. So my father and I went down to a little track in Morgantown, Kentucky called Cedar Ridge Speedway, which is primarily a dirt track. And then I heard that Sportstrom had canceled and postponed to the following Sunday, April the 28th. And I was listening behind me to the PA, the announcers up there working together, and I thought to myself, I've always wanted to be an announcer. I've never got the chance or anything of that nature. So what I did was I reached out to Mr. Brandon Taylor. He also co-announces with me at the Sportstrom Speedway. And I said, you know what? I got a crazy idea. I said, I want to try to work with the announcer at the time, which was Mike Benson at Sportstrom Speedway. This was in 2019. He goes, well, I mean, come on. So I arrive on Sunday afternoon to the track at Sportstrom Speedway, and little did I know, he introduced me to Mike Benson, and I just wanted to say, hey, the next week, if you don't mind, I would kind of like to work with you a little bit, try this little gig out a little bit. I think I got what it takes. And he was like, well, here's the mic. Here, work with me tonight. So I was like, oh, crap, really? Tonight? I don't have no material. I've never done this thing before. But guys, when I tell you I tried it out for the first time, I touched that microphone and social media went off. Who is this guy? What is he doing? This guy is the real deal, and I loved working with Mike Benson. So if it wasn't for Brandon and Mike Benson, there would be no Wild Will Greenwell. And I'll get to the Wild here in a minute on how that all transpired. But it's incredible to think about 2019 and speed up 8 years later to 2026 and thinking of everything in between. It goes by too fast. It truly, truly does. I said it and think at times, well, 2019, 8 years, and it's went by so fast because it has been fun. And that's what you want to keep it at. And I told myself, if it ever becomes not fun, don't do this anymore. Well, after 2019 was a whirlwind. That's kind of when I started building that. Okay. Because my thing is, how can I go bigger each and every year? Because if I'm going to do this professionally one day, which I have, I'm very blessed to be able to do that. I was like, I got to think of different things to keep the wheel turning. So 2019 ended. Mike Benson gave me the name Wild Will Greenwell. And he goes, you know what? The best way to create your name and solidify it is Mike Benson. I'm going to do a bus race. So in 2019, it was planned for me to get flipped. And, I solidified the name Wild Will Greenwell. I didn't know what to think, but I did it. And after 2019 ended, Mike Benson decided he was going to retire. That was the announcer at the time. And I realized 2020, obviously, I was going to be the announcer at Sportstrom. Well, at that time in 2020, I got all kinds of calls. Of course, we know COVID year. So it was kind of a weird time for me to go out on my own, right? So I guess one could look at it like, well, you're not going to have many people to talk in front of. So you can practice a lot because you when they only allowed so many people to come in at the time, it was like announcing to an empty stadium, which I hated. It sucked. It wasn't the same without the fans cheering and everything like that. Just a car going around his victory lap with nobody cheering was just a weird feeling to me. So 2020, I get the call from All-Star Monster Truck Tour and go out in Salt Lake City, Utah, start announcing there in the arena. And then I went to Wisconsin, started doing a little bit of there. And then, of course, I got the call from everywhere, Oklahoma, Florida, Ohio, Tennessee. It was just a whirlwind of things that I got the chance to announce at all of these different tracks and facilities. Then, of course, looking at my notes here, 2021, 2022 was my first year at Salem. And that was a big deal. I did not like the big track stuff at first. I did not like calling it. It just wasn't me. The place grew on me tremendously. The action that we call on the Salem High Banks is truly like anything else I've ever called. So 2022, we also did a big thing, and Ryan Bowling with Dirt 2 Media came to me and said, you know what, you're getting bigger. Why don't we create this podcast? Why don't we do a podcast now? So I was like, okay, podcast, that's fine. I don't know what to do, or I don't have the equipment. I don't know where to start. He was like, here's this older equipment. I'll give it to you. You have to go to the guest, so it's kind of hard to kind of reach out and branch out. So I was like, you know what, 2022, this is awesome. Let's do this. So he comes up with a logo, which is my old logo, and he says, you know what, let's call it, I had the idea of the Wild Will Throwdown. Yeah. I was already Wild Will, so, how about a cool name like the Throwdown? So Wild Will Throwdown, so that just kind of meshed. And then from there, 2023, I was at Salem Speedway. Also then became the director of operations at the Circle City Raceway in Indy for Eddie Van Meter and Donna Van Meter. Never wanted to do management in my life, and I'm so glad I got the chance to do it because I will never do it again. But I put the staff in place there. 2023, we did not at the end of the year break in an unhealthy relationship. Eddie loves me. I love Eddie. It was not one of those things where, well, let's leave a bad taste in the mouth. Let's leave. It was nothing like that. It was just like, management is not for me. I belong on the microphone. Trust me. That's where my heart is driven at. So then after 2023, I was still doing the Salem Speedway stuff during that time, which is kind of weird. And then 2024 was at Salem again and traveling again with different places. And then 2025, that was a big one. We hit, different places. The XR Tour. That was another thing that came up. Of course, breaking XR after that year, everyone knows what happened. Just look at social media, right? So we're not going to get into all that, but I'm blessed for the opportunity. Got to hit Oklahoma, Iowa, and Minnesota. It was a great time. The drivers and working with the staff at those places, I will say that. I did take a little bit out of that. That is the positive. And then here in 2026, we're celebrating 5 years of the podcast. We got the brand new gold merch for the podcast. And I will say 2025, one of the biggest new things that I did was, how do we give back to the veterans, right? I always said, if I have a platform, I want to use that platform for the better good. And Soldiers Angels was a big military organization in San Antonio we hooked up with, and we gave $5 of every shirt sell back, and we raised over $5,000, I think $5,055 for our veterans. And a lot of people are like, why veterans? Well, obviously they're veterans, and my wife is a veteran of the U.S. military now. She retired Major in 2022. I believe she might be watching, so she might check that. But yeah, you gotta watch that. But she retired, and it's a blessing for me to give back and being a military spouse throughout the years with her, because a lot of people don't know we sacrificed a lot. For me to work on my racing career, we actually lived 5 years geographically separated. Wow. She was in Louisiana. I was here in Kentucky with my family, taking care of my mom and dad at the time while I built this racing career. So in 2022, we finally lived back together, and we live here in Jasper, Indiana now, which we love. And of course, a lot of different racetracks around us. So yeah, that's been the journey. This year, we're doing Indy Warrior partnership. And the next year, we already have something we can't announce yet, which is already bigger and better. So we're truly excited. We're truly able to give back to our veterans. And man, 8 years of this career has been just none other than nonstop, but great.
Well, I mean, and that's where, when you came to Painesville Speedway last year
yes.
for the figure 8, and you did that, that's how you and I got to meet in person. And I was just impressed right away, because I even called my mom and my stepdad, who I know are listening, and I said, Pit Road TV has the broadcast rights, but I'm hearing Top Row Racing Media as much as I'm hearing Pit Road TV. And you reached out too, even before the show. Who are you? What are you doing? What are you bringing? Just kind of to get to know me. And I hadn't had that experience before like that. So, I mean, right away, it's just that first impression was just like, okay, this person knows what they're doing, right? So I appreciated that.
If you put all the tools together to be a good announcer, and here's how I view it, you have to look at all the perspective. You're not just calling the drivers, and yes, they are the reason you have a racetrack, but you got to call out your safety crew, give them appreciation. You got to call out you're doing great on media. You can call the TV broadcast. That's fine. I don't care if it's concession stand workers. They deserve some recognition, right? So as an announcer, obviously, one of the big things is you got to fill time. At some point in that broadcast, you've got to fill time. So why not utilize it to give out respect and credit to those who deserve it, that don't really get to be seen or heard? What you're doing, it's great. Top Row Media, you guys, I love Top Row Media. When I'm not at a racetrack, I can see highlights from you guys. So that's just, it's just common courtesy to me. And there have been places, I'm not going to name names, that I've gotten a fight in the press box with and arguments. Well, you can't say that on our broadcast. Well, then I'm going to leave the broadcast then, because I'm going to say what I need to say.
Yeah.
So there have been press boxes where I did not walk out of, but there have been disagreements many times because you can't say this, and that, and it's not going to hurt this, or whoever. You know what I mean? So You got to give respect to everyone in this industry. You just cannot go and just call this person, well, you see that guy over in turn number 1, he's working just as hard as this person. So
yeah,
fire me. I mean, I have 15 other tracks that I can go announce at.
right.
You know what I mean? But I think each and every track that you visit, you should call out and respect each and every one of those workers and whoever's doing media in the grandstands.
Yeah, that was, I mean, like I said, I remember calling right away. I'm like, it's on pit row, and I'm hearing top row just as much as pit row. And I'm like, that was, I mean, again, that was just really cool that you did that. But that makes so much sense too, because I know that's something when I was at Hartford in 2022, they gave me my first gig, my first official gig, Leah and Tim. And that's a track that you should check out too some point.
Sure.
They didn't have a photographer that year either, so I was kind of like all in one for them. And their track prep crew, I said, why don't we make hero cards for them, because they're just as much as part of the show. And then at Kalamazoo, I did that for KTS as well, our Kalamazoo Track Services team, because
Sure.
One, they're one of the best in the nation. I mean, they train a lot of people. They go to a lot of training. So I said, they're just as much as part of the show. I mean, we don't want to see them because if we're seeing them, that means something happened, right?
Yeah.
But when they're in action, and then to respect and honor the trainings and everything they've done. So I totally get that perspective of like giving everyone the shout out. That's why I do my short track, spotlights, where it's not just drivers anymore. It's like, let's shout out anybody and everyone, because Jay Freet said, he's a photographer up here for On Track Design. One time at South Bend, he said, well, we're all in this together alone. And I've kind of translated that into, we're all in this together, but what can we do individually in our parts as the community? So,
yes.
So I definitely totally get that with you. So, when you think of your announcing career, what are moments that stand out, for you, that you sit back and go, one, dang, like I got to call that, or be a part of that, or even be a part of something that maybe people didn't know what was going to happen, but you as an announcer knew the plan and you got to surprise somebody. So what are some moments that stand out?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. And there are times over the past 8 years that do run together and you don't really remember races as much. And then of course it clicks and you're like, man, I do remember that time. Or people in the stands, the people I get to meet, the fans, and, you try to remember their names, but there's so many. I will say 2020 COVID year, that was only a year after. And announcing in front of an empty racetrack, that was one memorable moment that I will never forget because it was so eerie. We had the Outlaw Figure 8 cars there in a big race, one of the biggest car counts, about 24, 25 cars. Go figure, the biggest car count, and no fans in the stands. I think it was also a mix of these guys want to get out of the house.
Yeah.
So, they're coming to run somewhere that, can be. So we actually recorded it on Facebook Live, that whole race. And that is the first race I got sun poisoned at and had to go to the hospital to get IV because I sat out in the grandstands and recorded the whole show for the fans at home. So I took one for the team there. So, that was a great year. The school bus racing deal, you won't, that will be a memorable moment because when they put me in the school bus, I had never drove a school bus, much less get in one to wreck. So I'm sitting there in the seat and they're like, all right, you need to come out to the track. So I'm out to the track and then I know what lap it's coming. So basically I can prepare myself just a little bit, but I did not know I was going to get hit that hard at the time. So the last thing I remember is the check engine light comes on and I'm hung up like this and just like, am I still alive or am I dead? Okay, I'm still alive. So, that's a memorable moment. There's many Halloween 200s at Salem and Firecracker 200s that you call that are very special to a track like Salem. I've gotten the opportunity to announce inside Lucas Oil Raceway Park up in Indy. So that was a fun opportunity. And there's just been so many different short tracks that I've met people. Paynesville, Lorraine, Mount Lawn, I got to announce that and work with Glenn Luckett. He is a big race director, president of the CRA, used to be CRA, now HRA. And there's been other opportunities that, I've gotten to announce different novelty events like demolition derbies or monster truck shows and, everything like that. So, there are so many memorable moments over the years, but man, 2020, that was a big one when nobody was in the stands. And of course, everyone knows COVID. So That was a big one. But I'm sure there's other events out there I just can't think of. But there's a lot of them.
So, I mean, just in what you just talked about in that little bit, you have also been recognized as one of the most versatile voices because, again, you can go figure eight racing, you can do circle track racing, you can do the good old fashioned demolition derby, you can get in a school bus and take a hit and do all these things. So, what does it take to be an announcer who's not only highly sought after nationally? I mean, it's not just like your local tracks fighting for you, but it's tracks in North Carolina and South Carolina and everywhere. Like, not only that, but then, what skills does it take to be able to go from like, hey, I'm going to call a figure eight outlaw race today, and then tomorrow I get to see a bunch of monster trucks jumping and crashing, and then, oh, by the way, we're going to go see a station wagon punch somebody with their back end at the demolition derby. So, like, what does it take to have that skill set that you can just flip the switch?
Well, one thing that's helped, and I'm not going to lie, is the voice, right? The voice, the dark voice, the deep voice, it helps. I mean, it truly does. One thing about it is it's just your knowledge. You learn it. If you can learn different things here and there and put it all together, like there's some easy things that you could learn. Your My Race Pass helps. So there's some of your knowledge right there. Knowing the drivers by name, not having to scurry through a paperwork and seeing, well, who's driving number 68, who's driving number 42. If you know those drivers, take the time. Here's my biggest thing. Take the time and walk the pit area before the race starts. If you truly love racing and you're passionate about it, make sure you take your notes, go back there, learn some fun stories about these drivers, the diehard backwoods blue collar racers. Learn some stories that you did not know. And that is what the fans want to know. So first and foremost, you get yourself a little script going on, opening ceremonies, the invocation, all of that fun stuff. Your order of events, heat races are first, possibly some B mains, B features, and then an A feature. So just learn that stuff. I mean, the technique of announcing will come along with it. And I always say there's never a bad announcer. Each announcer could be the worst you think, but it's his own little style. I always tell people and announcers that I've worked with, young announcers, maybe 18, 19, who want to make a career out of this thing. I always tell them you are always going to have criticism. Anybody in life, you're going to have somebody that does not like your style, and you're going to have someone that loves your style. And I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of people quit announcing just because they're having people criticize them too much. And I always tell them, in 2019, I had a lot of people that didn't really like my style because I was still trying to find out what kind of announcer I was at that point. So once you get past that first year, you'll learn to grow. But the versatility, man, that's a different one. When I first started announcing just stock cars, basically I learn best with getting thrown in the fire. So you have to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into first and foremost. Now, can I go announce the Kentucky Derby, a horse race? Absolutely not. That is not for me. I do not know nothing about it. My wife knows about horses, but I could not announce a Kentucky Derby. I would just be like, there comes the next horse, because this is just not what I want to do. As far as monster trucks, I grew up and it's really cool. I pulled out some pictures the other day of when I was 2, setting on a Gravedigger's tire in Louisville. And, my dad would always take me to the monster truck shows, and people are like, why did you get into monster trucks? Well, that's because of that. And this year, I got the opportunity out of many, 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 many people across the U.S. to be one of the final 8 selected for an audition for Monster Jam. And look, I'm not going to tell you that I'm never going to do that. There possibly may come a time when I actually want to do that on the national level. At the time, short track really meant a lot to me, and my family's health wasn't the best. So I had to put their health first. And, obviously this year I could not go on the road with that. A lot of people know that. Some people don't. I don't really announce many things on social media if I'm not 100% sure that it's going to happen. So versatility with all of that stuff. I always tell young announcers, don't give up. As you guys know, you're always going to have a criticism no matter where you lie. There's people out there that's not going to like you. If you're the best person in the world, people are not going to like you. And I'm going to tell you this. This is my quote here. You could shit a silver egg or a gold egg, and someone would be mad it's not silver. You know what I mean? So that's just part of it, right? So you cannot, and I used to be the hardest on myself, guys. I would tell you that much. You know, if I heard criticism, it was hard for me to take criticism at first.
Yeah.
Like, F this, I'm going to give up. I'm not doing this. And I'm like, you know what? No, don't listen to those haters. Just do what you have to do. And you can storm past anyone like that. And that's, I think, part of my grit of getting this far is not letting those haters kind of hold me back a little bit. So, yeah, that, and just learn the drivers, walk the pit area, take time to walk the pit area, learn as much information as you can, because people have came up to me and they're like, we love knowing about these drivers. We would have never known that. And you'll hear me all the time say, the biggest goal of my career would be driver fan connection, because we've lost that a lot.
Yeah.
Learning the drivers behind the helmets, kind of why I do the interviews. The on-track autograph session, I tell trucks this all of the time. You will have more crowds in the stands because they want to do that. You know, getting the candy, getting the hero cards, all of the fun stuff, shaking that driver's hands. We could have a 12-year-old kid come in and they might meet this guy who finishes 25th all of the time, but they shake that kid's hand and give them a hero card. They have just earned a fan, and they may buy a merchandise item from them or not, but this is what's going to keep short track racing alive.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and that's where I think back to Bristol Dirt Nationals week 1 a few years ago. I met Alec Fett. They were the first crew that I came up to, and they're from Iowa. And I got to do that. Top Row was literally like, what, Buju, only a couple months old at that time and probably like 50 followers, let's be real. But it was one of those that I got a chance to connect with them, and just the way they treated me and the way they welcomed in, the way that they kind of put up with my annoying self at times. I felt like I was annoying them. But with that, I said, lifelong fan, just with their treatment of me. And I share Alex stuff all the time on my page, follow what they do in Iowa. If it weren't 10 hours away where they race, I would make a trip there. But it's like, well, I got Kalamazoo on Friday. I can't be, it's like they race a lot on Thursdays, right? So that would be like a big trip back and forth. And but one of these days, one of these times, I want to make my way out to Iowa and just to support them, not just from Michigan where I am, but actually there in person. So, and that's just me, when I was just starting. So I definitely know, we just had, DJ McCotter on last week, and he's someone who connects with fans, and Joel, who's our announcer at Kalamazoo, he hit the wall a lot, and now he's our announcer. But when he's front wheel drive racer, he'd hit the wall, do the things. And, he had so many people just look forward to him. So absolutely, those connections matter.
Oh, it absolutely does. And you guys, you two know this more than anything as well. When you walk the pits and meet these drivers, and, this one driver may have gotten to this one guy, and the fans are like, man, that guy's a cheater. He's, he sucks. He's not good. But that driving a different level in the back of the pit area, right? Like this guy, if you just knew him, right? If you just knew what kind of person he was, and it goes with the staff, right? The behind the scenes stuff that you and we all get to see behind these press boxes. I always tell people the press box for me is the most fun I've had anywhere in my life, because of everyone fighting up there. The scores and the other stuff, and the race director, how mad they get. I'm over here just dying laughing. And I just want to point that out. That is the biggest thing, too, that fans love. And I've always made a point to do it. You got to be a versatile. You got to multitask as a good announcer, right? The left ear needs to be on that race director. All right, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to disqualify him, blah, blah, blah. I tell the fans that, because that connection between the race director and the fans is your bridge. Well, the race fans, if you do not do that, well, what the heck is going on out here? What are we doing this for? Why is this lineup not hurrying up? Well, here's the problem. We got to get the number 22 in front of the number 36. We're out of order here.
Right.
That's an example. If you connect that, it's just like an on TV commentator. Well, what is the official saying now? So I think that is a big point that many people should do, is to let people know what the race director is saying. I will go on and say it. If you're disqualifying the number 36, I'll sell it over the air. I do not care. You know what I mean? But the fans want to know that stuff.
Oh, Yeah, and well, and just as you were even talking about getting to know drivers behind the scenes, I mean, I don't know if Buju saw my face like, oh, I know a driver who I would talk about with that kind of thing, because you just know that, right? And Drew Jack, he wasn't able to make it tonight, but I know he's a big fan of you too. And him and I talk. I always tell him I was the dumb fan. I was the fan in the stands who thought they knew a little something, and I've gotten
Sure.
on this side, and I've learned really quickly. I knew like nothing. So I just really appreciated this side, but and I'm a big connections person. So, hearing you walk through the Perry and doing that, that's one thing that, because I have my GoPros and I have all my other things, I get a chance to talk with drivers. And when I do the spotlights, they're like, we had one conversation. You remembered all these things. It's like, yeah, notes don't mean anything to me, but that conversation meant everything to me. And so it's like, I store a lot of information. And so when we have things happen at like Kalamazoo, I'll yell down at our announcer, Joel, say this. Joel, know this, right? And because he's just below me, and he'll put it in his notes, because I know sometimes he doesn't always get a chance to go through when he's doing some of the other things up top. That it's like, hey, this is like a mini wedge graduate. Let's promote that. Hey, this is a first time. That's a dirt car on an asphalt track.
100%.
That, right? Like, because fans do love those things. The weird knowledge, I call it. They want to know that weird stuff that is meaningful.
Well, here is the number one thing that I run into, believe it or not, and that is a veteran driver who has came back, and especially because down here, predominantly the car count is the Crown Vics, right? It's the old Bomber days kind of style car. So a lot of these veterans, I don't care if it's a late model, if it's a street stock, if it's a sportsman, they're coming back after 10 to 15 years to run these because, hey, I miss racing. How do I get back into it? So when you talk to these old veterans in the pit area, they'll say, well, I would love it. They're excited. I would love if you told them that I won the 1979 Bush, blah, 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 or, I did this, this, and that. And I love that because you reminisce, right? Those veterans deserve that.
Yep.
And they are so pumped up that you talk to these veteran drivers and they know they're not going to win. Okay. Let's be honest. And they will tell you, I know I'm not competing with so-and-so and so-and-so. So, if you give them that credit and announcer, and I have many times after the race is over, they are lit up. They are ecstatic. You're bringing some credibility back to my name. And I raced in 1970 something or 80 something. We've had racers come out from 1960 something that got back in a car.
Wow.
This is part of our family of short track racing, right? This is why I live it. I breathe it, because these guys deserve to be recognized. Let's be honest. If it wasn't for those pioneers back in the 60s, hell, I mean, Sportstrom Speedway in Salem celebrating 80 years this year, opened in 1947. So over the years, if you didn't have these pioneers all over the nation, when the big tracks boomed back in the late 40s and 50s, because many tracks across the nation started firing up after World War. So, these are our pioneers. And if you want to give them a little recognition, the ones that are still living and able to get in the car, that's what they love and live and breathe.
Oh, yeah. And Buju kind of did that with Rich Bull, who's a veteran up here, where he,
Sure.
that was Buju's first love, as a kid with the first favorite driver, is remembering that and being able to recall that story. And so, I mean, those moments stand out. And for those veterans, right, you're just honoring their past. And then Buju also has his Bull Ring Chronicles, where he's highlighted like old tracks like Playland Park up here in South Bend, which is now part of IUSB's Indiana University, South Bend University campus. Student housing is where the track used to be, and
excellent,
is still there. Yep. And he's also what was that track in North Carolina? Okanichi, that Dale Jr. did, an episode on where they walked the track and all that. So, even honoring those kind of things and telling those stories, because I bet there are many people who have probably passed through the hallways of those dormitories at IUSB who don't even know that they're on historic property that at one time held all these things, including a roller coaster and baseball fields and big track.
That's amazing.
And those bleachers, you really have to be looking for them because there's growth in them. So, right, it's all those legacy things do add up, because, we lose a lot of that. And especially you have to think of media back then versus media now, right? Everybody has a phone. Everybody has something that they can document. But back then, right, you had very talented, specific people who did a lot of those things. Not everybody just had a camera. Not everybody just had that. So, And I mean, you can go back to, as you were talking about some of those careers, and even in the 70s and 80s, probably didn't have just everybody doing that. So, so it's pretty cool that you do that. But I know I've asked a lot of questions so far. So Buju, I feel like I'm leaving you hanging out here. So I know you were looking up and researching Will to get to know him too. So what are some of your questions you have?
So which we're talking about the announcement, and Lewis mentioned that I'm kind of newer to the game here, and you mentioned fill and time, and that's clearly to me by far and away the hardest part. I've called races on PlayStation 2 my whole childhood. I can do that part. I feel like I'm comfortable with that. The fill and time is hard. So I guess my question is, how do you fill time?
Well, filling time, obviously you have your big ones, right? You can only announce the concession stand so many times before people get tired of hot dogs, right? So, then you go to sponsors, the track sponsors. You wrap that in there as well. That'll fill a little bit of time. The upcoming schedule, right? I'm fortunate enough down here that other tracks let me announce other track schedules at their facilities. So that's good that I've always kind of preached at. And music is your best friend. Whether people want to admit it or not, they do not want to hear the announcer 24/7 while they're at the racetrack. That's been one of the things that you can only talk to these people so much before they're like, you see them, right? You actually, as an announcer, you watch the people out there. And that when you get that look, you're talking a little too much. I've gotten it many times. But, I always say, especially red flags, the red flag music, I always say, do not keep talking, right? I always tell people that. I was like, put on a good play mix. You don't want some F this, F that. I hate that when I've been places where they actually put that on. Country music, that's a safe bet. Happy music, like, I don't know, like dance music, something like that. Yeah. But, family friendly, obviously. So yeah, I think music is the biggest thing you can on red flag situations. People don't want to hear you talk all the time, but after you hit your upcoming schedules, your concession stand and your sponsors, and what is coming up the rest of the night, if you've got a plenty of a schedule. Now, if it's your feature race event and the front wheel drives and you're getting 25 cautions, at that point you're just like, all right, here we go. Let's get this throughout the night. So, but I think that's the biggest time in filling time.
Sure. What's a time that you realize you're completely out of depth? Like you talk about all these different things you've done, the demolition derbies, the school bus races, and all the novelty side stuff. What's one time that you were like, I don't know if this is for me at all, but I'm going to figure this out as we go?
Oh, demolition derbies for sure. Now, watching the WWF back in the day, that would be actually some commentary that I could take, or the old slobber knocker from Jim Ross and all that fun stuff. That's hard to do. Boy, that's hard to do, because I have to have my list, because I do not know all of the drivers, obviously. And, what do you do? He's backing into him. He's hitting him. It's awkward. If that makes sense. You just, oh yeah, he just hit him, what do I say? I'm not saying here is side by side and turn number one down the back straightaway kind of deal, right? So it's not like, all right, here I am, because I'm like this the whole time. Demolition derbies, is that the number? Because sometimes on those cars crunched up, you can't see the right number, right? So I think that's him. He just hit him, and the fans are like, oh, this guy sucks. Well, yes, I know. You want to come do this? The demolition derbies, if I have to do it, I will. Do I love to do it? No. Do I love watching it? Absolutely. But commentary and demolition derbies, yeah, that's not for me. I will say that.
What's another role that you'd like to play in a race? You said management wasn't for you, so we know you're not going back to that. We know you love announcing. If there was something else that you could try at the racetrack, what might that be?
Well, the good thing is at a racetrack, as you know, sometimes you have to be versatile. If I'm down in the pit area walking, Will, can you go on and flag and tell them get off the track for practice? Sure, I can do that. I'll try to flag a little bit. Can you get on the pit mic and announce, hey, sportsmen, you up to the lineup chute now. We need you to the lineup chute immediately, blah, blah, blah. So you're the pit mic now. Can you run and get a thing of hot dogs can cook at the concession stand? Sure, I can do that. Absolutely. Hey, can you check them in the pit window? Can you give them a wristband? So yes, I've done everything. Obviously, my home is in that press box. That is where I feel the most comfortable. That is my home. And believe it or not, this is going to surprise a lot of people. I'm one of the most nervous, anxious people you will ever meet at the racetrack. When I'm walking in front of someone or grandstands, it took me for years to make eye contact. When I'm inside those four walls of the press box, I become me, Will Greenwell. I can just do what I do the best. But I've gotten better over the years at that. It's just, I don't know. It's not being scared or not humble to talk to the audience because I love those people. It's just you get all eyes on you, and that's just part of it, right? So you go out to get you a drink or go to the bathroom at a press box, or if your press box don't have a bathroom, like you have to go intermission. People know who you are. You're walking down, the eyes are on you. You can feel it. This guy you've always talked to says, "Hey, Will, stop here for a minute." You're not going to ignore them. I do not ignore them, but everybody is now watching you in that conversation because you're who you are. You know what I mean? So for me, that is the hardest part about announcing, believe it or not, is just trying to come out of that anxiety, which I play it off very well. Now, when it's time to work, I work, and I'm zoned into what I need to do, whether it's on-track interviews, announcing a race in the press box. I am who I am. So that's just been a great thing about it. Now, with my merchandise this year and last year, I think it's helped me a lot because we've had my tent. My beautiful wife sets up in the concourse. I sign autographs on the shirts when I did the school bus race. And talking to these people really made me less anxious, to be honest with you, if that makes sense.
That's interesting you say that because I have anxiety myself, and announcing is definitely me going out of my comfort zone. And I think I have the same struggles in that the face-to-face interactions are a little more difficult than being in the press box and everybody's looking that way.
It is.
What I mean?
And that's awesome that you said that, because in 2019 with Mike Benson, it was the most hardest thing in the world for me was like, I'm not cut out for this. Another voice. Yes, you are. Your ass better do it. Okay. So, and I had a lot of great support around me, and they've helped me out a lot. My family, you can do this. The biggest supporters, biggest cheerleaders, my wife. I'm telling you again, she's the biggest supporter I have. If it wasn't for her, the merchandise, people just don't see the behind the scenes. She does my QuickBooks. We've become an LLC in Wild Will Entertainment. She does all of that fun stuff. She does the merchandise wrapping. She's wrapped our new blankets and whatnot. So, there's just been so many different things that she's done behind the scenes that if it wasn't for her, I can be the face and go out and make the name. I can talk in the press box all day long. But the behind the scenes stuff, that truly was where it really comes together.
Do you want to talk a little bit? Oh, sorry, Buju. I didn't mean
you go ahead, Lewis. You're all good.
Since you're just talking about the merchandise, that's what made me think if we just can cut really quick. Do you want to talk a little bit about how people could get those T-shirts, especially since $5 of that, it's $5, right? It goes towards
part of proceeds. Absolutely.
So since you already talked about your merchandise, and then we can go back, Buju. That way, since you just showed it, this is probably a good time to where can people get all that to especially help with your cause that you do?
Yeah, so this year, 50th anniversary, we went a little extreme on the merchandise, which it's going really well. The sales are great. So we have the brand new blankets. Now, these blankets, basically, I try to sell all the merchandise cheap, $25, basically. This is actually a different kind of blanket. This blanket you can set on the bleachers, and you can turn it over if it's raining because it's waterproof on the other side. So you can actually use it as a shield gear. We released the brand new hats this year, the mesh on the back. So those are going really well. And of course, the big seller is our military gold metallic T-shirts. And this is really something that I take pride in. So as you can see, I'll try to zoom it in there a little bit. You can see the cars. It's got the Crown Vic, the Figure 8 Street Stock, and the Super Late model on it with our logo. And the reason I keep these so cheap, $15, is because of all of these marketing partners on the back. As you can see, we got a lot of them that came on board this year, and all of the tracks at the bottom that I've had a little bit of work in: Sportsdrome, Indianapolis Speedrome, Circle City, Salem. Salem's on there, and then of course KKR. So all of that stuff, and these are good 50-50 polyester and cotton. We do it all big because the sponsors, again, they keep it cheap. And if you're interested in one of those, they're $15. There is a shipping cost. Sometimes it's different on where you ship, $8, $9, depending on what it goes. But you can just go to my Facebook page, Will Greenwell. Everyone knows that I have a lot of followers. You can just send me a direct message on there. I try to check all of those. and say, hey, I'm interested in one of those shirts, and we'll figure out a way to ship it to you and get it all there. But we've had people order our merchandise from Seattle to California this year to Texas. So we're very blessed in that. And basically, it goes to a great cause, our military. And I forgot to show you that, but basically, the India Warrior Partnership, they are a big part of that. So their badge is stamped on there, as well as last year's the Soldiers Angels are on there. So we want to make sure we get the calls out. And India Warrior Partnership, they do a lot of military housing for homeless veterans. And that's such a big need because, in my opinion, no veteran should ever go homeless. I'm telling you that now. We've kind of forgot them in our system throughout the years, whether it be healthcare, whether it be home, shelter. And it's sickening to know that a veteran is out there homeless for sacrificing all that they have for our country. So,
well, that's where I was going to ask, like, those organizations that you work with and their background and what they do. And so, and why this, selling the shirt, the $5 of that goes, to help, these organizations who obviously, with VA hospitals and all these different things,
sure,
being cut all the time. It's like, these organizations probably are the ones, who need the most help that are sometimes forgotten, when you have
yes,
other causes that, like obviously breast cancer is a big thing and other cancers are a big thing. But then sometimes, we forget the military, right? Like, I mean, right now, obviously we have conflicts going on all across
sure.
the globe, and, they're sacrificing, their life for our freedom so that we can live hopefully safely in this country and all that. And it's sometimes like when they come back, they're almost forgotten because of that. It's like, yeah, you dropped
100%.
now I don't know you because you're back home and you're just doing your normal daily stuff, right? We know you on the news, but that's it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's all kinds of other organizations out there that support those organizations, and trust me, they are as important as the military organizations. But whether it be these big corporations, and I'm not going to get into names and all of that stuff, but these big corporations of giving back, is they're finding out it's really not using the big bang or the buck going towards that organization. So what I do is I research the organizations that I know. Soldiers Angels, they're big on gift baskets. And basically, I've actually had a couple military personnel last year that were retired that came up to me and said, Soldiers Angels, they actually sent me 3 care packages when I was on Iraq. And I did that. So that made me feel great. Indie Warrior Partnership, I know a couple that have homes built for them. I know where they're building the homes at. So yes, they're legit. So I do not want to give it to an organization that's not legit or not giving back to their true potential. And another thing is, am I going to do the military next year or somewhere else? Maybe someone else, maybe another organization that doesn't do with the military. So that's why I'm kind of trying to branch out a little bit. And each year I want to do something special that I know that an organization is truly giving back to that cause that I'm passionate about.
Yep. So Buju, I know I put a pin in your question really quick. But that's where I thought, going there, talking about the shirt,
sure.
talking about the cause. It's like, since you showed the blanket, it's like, oh, that's the perfect opportunity to do I don't want to call it a cheap plug because it's not a cheap thing that you're doing, but like,
I appreciate it. No worries at all.
Get these t-shirts out there, right? Because someone watching may reach out and say, hey, we would like to get a t-shirt and support that cause. So it's like, that was perfect opportunity. Okay, Buju, your turn.
Okay. 2 more questions. I'm throwing it back to Lewis.
Oh, please.
But your ultimate goal. Do you have an ultimate goal in your announcing career? Is there a big red circle that you have on something, or are you just riding the wave, seeing what happens? I know you have a great racetrack already. You have a great home in Salem and a lot of great racetracks around you, and you mentioned the great opportunities you've had. But is there one thing that you have a big red circle around that this is what I want to do one day?
I always say that every year I want to go bigger and better. I had an opportunity with Monster Jam. That was the national level of the top, we're talking Gravedigger, Max D. We're talking the top level of monster trucks.
Yeah, there's and there may be an RC truck right here. There's
RC
truck next to me.
Exactly. And I'm not going to say I'm not in talks with them right now. I'm not going to say that. There may be an opportunity come up where, they understood last year that my dad was not in a good place. Well, now we have him moved out here by us. So that kind of opens up the door for a little more potential. I'm not going to say anything's definite yet, but there could be a national spotlight somewhere down the road for me. I know that I'm good enough, and that's not me being a confident ass, right? excuse the language, but I know that I have the potential to do that and to reach that goal. I'm 36 years old right now. I've done a lot that a lot of people at that age and 8 years ago could not have done. So I'm very blessed, very thankful for my faith, and praying that I get to this level. But I'm satisfied right now. If that never comes, I am so happy with what I accomplished, because I have so many different racetracks down here. And someone was telling me the other day, do you know, Will, that you are the only announcer that has announced at the same time to competitors of each track? And I'm like, well, I never really thought of that. He goes, think about it. Indianapolis Speedrome, Sportstrome, Salem, and Mount Lawn, all of these tracks, Brownstown Speedway, that have competed for over the years. And, they're still competing, not in a bad way, but hey, don't run on me this night. Don't run on me that night. You're the only announcer that is announced in all these press boxes at the same time, simultaneously, the same year. And you're like the link of all of these. Hey, go tell them not to do this, or go tell them not to do that. I said, I'll tell them, but I ain't going to make no promises. But, it's been a blessing to think about, to be honest with you, because, those promoters have enough faith in me when I'm announcing at a competitor's track that, I don't want to see them as a competitor. They're all short track racetracks that deserve to be there. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think, just trying to let them know that, hey, I cannot help what they did, but I am going to support those tracks that support me. So, I'm happy that I'm able to do that for sure.
And then on the lighter side a little bit, one track that you haven't been to that you want to visit, a bucket list track. What's one for you?
Oh, boy. Well, I'm friends with the announcer, and he's gave me an open invite to Bowman Gray Stadium.
Oh.
So, yeah, that the Madhouse, that has been a big bucket list item, I think, because we were stationed at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, which you have to drive through Winston-Salem to get there. So that place always has been on my radar. I've always wanted to do it. Yes, I have the connections down there. The time I have to get down there, it's little to none. That's the other thing. When you're announcing for 4 to 5 racetracks, and now a lot of people just heard that down here, Thunder Valley dirt track in Salem has reopened, and we're adding like 12 dates on Friday nights. And I come home and tell my wife, hey, I got 12 more Fridays I'm taking. You're what? I know. Where am I going to get those? Well, I'm giving 12 more of my Fridays. But what she doesn't know that I finally talked her into was, oh, you're our social media girl for the inner track. So you're going to post the winners at that track. She goes, fine. Just because I want to spend more time with you. That's the only reason I'm doing it. So I guess any advice out there to the guys who want their woman to go to the racetrack, get them a job. And whether you don't see them already, they have to go because they want to spend time with you. That's how you do it.
Well, there you go, Buju. That could be your selling point. Hey, date night at the races, except I'm going to be busy on the mic, but just think of how famous I am.
Yeah, so now I will go hang out with the tech guys for a while.
Now, I will tell you, our first date, she tells everyone this in a bad way. Our first date, we met online. We both got out of bad relationships in 13. It was 2013 June. And I was a fan at the Sportstrome Speedway at the time. So I would go on Saturday nights. So she goes, where do you want to go for a date at? So not thinking, I was like, Sportstrome Speedway, let's go to a date. I will take you to a racetrack. So she shows up. We meet in a parking lot. She's got this beautiful outfit on.
Oh, no.
Not dressed to go to a racetrack. I'm like, okay, we'll get her there. So we get in the car. She obviously... I don't know why I didn't think about doing this, but I did not take her out to eat on our first date. So I took her right to the racetrack. I wasn't thinking. So just trying to be the cute me that I am, I bought her a ring pop. I'm like, so here's your dinner. Here's your ring pop. Maybe one day you'll get a real one on your finger. Some stupid stuff that I said. You got to think when you get older, you always think about the stupid things that you said when you were younger.
Yeah.
And so we sat there. Best date ever because I did not have to talk because you could not talk because of the roar of the engine. So it was the best thing ever. So after that night at Sportstrome, we went to the big walking bridge in Louisville. And we were like, so is this a thing? She was pretty tired. It was like 1 a.m. Again, no food, loud race cars. And finally, we walk on the bridge at night. And I was like, so are we a thing? And I guess she goes, yeah, we are. Sure. So here we are 10 years married later. And about 12 years in it as a relationship, and she hasn't left me yet. So at least she knew what she was getting into when she married me.
That's awesome. That just, that I'm going to clip that. That's awesome. And then since I said clip that, StreamYard's going to do its own thing and put a clip spot there. Cause
there you go.
An awesome story though, right? Because think of how many people, we can see it at Kalamazoo, you can see it at Plymouth, South Bend, wherever you go, M40, how many people have met at the racetrack, right? And that's where, a lot of times, like the new Paris Night of Destruction people count me as part of their family, right? I'm an outsider that came in a few years ago, but they've really, embraced me as part of that. And it's like, just think of how many racetracks, they're not just important for an economic driver. They're just not important for a place of entertainment, but they're a place where people meet lifelong friends, people who they would call family, think of as family, all these things. And then in this case, that's where, love blossomed for you, is at the racetrack with a blow pop ring.
That's it. I'm sorry. At least give me some pointers. I was trying to be cute, but because I didn't even have dinner. What are you talking about? And I'm like, well, you can enjoy the race. That'll be all right.
Again, that's an awesome story though. So that's, well, and now again, 12 years later, you can remember that and share that and say, hey, you just never know. You might find your next love at the racetrack. So I know we're running out of time here, and you have your own podcast that you have to record here after this because your partner in crime is going out of town. And so do you want to talk a little bit about your podcast and your mission with that? And then I'm also trying to think, there was one more thing I wanted to, and the racetracks that people can currently hear you at. If they want to come down and hear you call a race, obviously I know Salem, they were doing Sunday shows at the start, but now they're back on Saturdays for the most part. But if you want to talk about all of that, podcasts where people can listen and then where people can hear you announce races.
Sure. So the podcast, absolutely. We're 5 years into this thing. We have different guests. We've had Jeff Bodine on. We've had, we've had Devin Moran and Lucas Oil Late Model Series on. We've had different people on locally. That's kind of our big thing. We want to kind of showcase someone locally that really doesn't get the attention that they deserve. So each and every week, usually on Wednesday or Tuesday nights, it's released after I edit it. I do all of my own editing. So basically, there's my logo. You can see it on the screen, the Wild Will Throwdown 5th anniversary. You can go many places to hear it. You can go to obviously www.wildwillgreenwell.com and absolutely listen to it for free. Or you can go to Spotify, you can go to Apple Podcast, Android, Amazon, iHeartRadio, all of the big platforms to listen to it. The Wild Will Throwdown. As far as where I'm announcing at this year, I am back at the Sportstrome Speedway down here at the Kentucky-Indiana border. We were talking about the car counts, about 65 to 70 Crown Vics each week. So that is an awesome place to go to watch racing. Also, our modifieds, our sportsmen's are down there as well. And the Salem Speedway, yes, indeed. I'm back there 2022, now 26 is my 5th year at Salem. Hard to believe as well. Yes, we're racing mostly Sundays and Saturdays. Now Saturday's schedule comes out June 6th. Our next scheduled date, that is when the modifieds return to the high banks. So Salem Speedway. I'm doing a few races at the Indianapolis Speedrome this year. I'll be on the broadcast TV crew for the 3-hour. It's our 50th annual $50,000 to win 3-hour this year. Absolutely great. Going to be about 60 outlaw figure 8 cars from all over the country. So check that out. In different places, I just pop in. They ask me to announce and when I can watch. But predominantly this year, the Speedrome, the Sportstrome, the Salem Speedway is predominantly where we're going to be at.
Well, and I didn't know all the tracks in that area. So when you're sharing something for the Speedrome, I'm like, hold on. There's all these dromes. I wanted to make sure that I was following the right dromes because again, I'm like, well, I know there's Indianapolis, and then I didn't know about the other one, right? And so that's where I looked it up on the maps to go, okay, where's that located? So it's because of you, that I've learned about other tracks down in that area.
Sure.
So that
Sportstrome Speedway is a very historic place. In 1947, it opened right there when they were shipping crate containers down the Ohio River. Okay. And I know we're running out of time, and I'm not going to get into the history of it, but they actually did ostrich races there. Back in the 40s and 50s. A lot of these short tracks I did not know did ostrich races. Thunder Valley Raceway in Salem did ostrich races. So when I tell that to the fans, they're like, are you crazy? It's like, no, it's just this historic time. And the drome actually means sports, kind of, different sporting events, boxing, racing, running, stuff like that. So that's where the drome kind of came in back in the 40s and 50s.
Wow. Okay. See, I learned something new. I mean,
You never know.
Ostrich racing. I don't. Oh, I wonder if anyone legally can get away with that in today's world. Probably not.
PETA would probably be laying down at the parking lot, so I would not.
we would see them all over. But that, I mean, imagine that though, right? Like ostrich races coming,
Amazing.
Sunday, and I mean, we have pig races. If you go to a county fair, they have pigs doing the
They
swine
do.
races and all that. So I mean, ostrich. I would have never. Next time I go to Potawatomi Zoo, I'm going to look at the ostrich and go, "Are you ready to race? Let's saddle up."
Hey, but you know what? The fastest bird. So you know what? That makes sense.
Yeah, man, I would not. I didn't know that's the thing. Boujou, did you know
Willis
that?
is flabbergasted. I've never heard of ostrich races.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's a Bull Ring Chronicle episode right there.
There you
Ostrich
go.
There
racing.
you go.
That's what we need to do. But again, Will, I know it's 8:05, and I know Mason just popped in, and you have two segments of your podcast that you get to record right after this. So we helped warm up your voice for it. But
hey, guys, I appreciate you so much for having me. I love what you guys do. We need more media in the racing world. So I love taking the time to chat with you guys. Anytime you need me, just let me know. But thank you so much for what you guys do.
Thank you, man.
Again, it's thank you to have some of your caliber on here. I mean, a national voice who thousands and thousands of people probably heard you, and now they might be able to connect that face to the voice, because sometimes, again, with announcers, right, unless you're walking through, for people who are listening on Pit Road TV or XR events or whatever it's called now, all these things, right? Like you might be over in North Carolina or whatever, and they're in California. They'll never maybe have a chance to see you, but you never know. I mean, now they can maybe say, "Hey, that's that guy," right? So,
hey,
again,
and I know I mentioned anxiety, but if you see me at the racetrack, please come up, introduce yourself. I'd love to talk to you. Any question, I'm very approachable. So, I just love our fans and our drivers. That's for sure.
well, again, thank you for everything that you do. Again, one of the top voices in the nation, and I'm excited to see what you get to do next. And you just never know, right? The doors are always open, and you're opening a lot of them. But again, when you have the skill set that you do, there are a lot of tracks who would be very lucky to have you even just be there. So again, thank you everything, Will, for what you do, and thank you for helping our veterans through the different causes that you work with. So I'll be sure to put in the comments when I get a chance to connect with you. That way, if people want to buy that shirt, again, it's $15, and $5 of it goes towards the organization that helps with homeless and all that for our veterans. So again, thank you so much, Will.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a great night, and thank you again.
Oh, no, absolutely. Again, thank you. And I know we're at the top of the hour here, so I do want to remind everyone that you're listening to the Monday Night Rewind. Again, every like and every share that you do helps grow this show each and every single week. So definitely appreciate that. I know Racing Mason's already in the staging area, so I'm about to bring him on, but I do want to do our top of the hour shout outs. Again, you can throttle up with us. Boujou and I are back this Thursday at 7:00. We preview the schedule of the upcoming weekend, where we'll talk about the tracks in Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, sometimes Ohio, on where you can go on a Friday, Saturday, or especially this week on a Sunday between the mini wedges and Corgan Oil. And then we talk about the storylines heading into the weekend. Again, we are just talking with Will Greenwell, who has the Wild Will Throwdown podcast that you can listen to on his website. One more quick reminder for the marketing special for ELH Detailing. If you want to get a fresh detail, come on down to the sunny shores of Bridgman, Michigan. While your car's getting detailed, you can wave to everyone in Chicago from our shoreline. You can see the Sears Tower, Boujou. I'm not calling it the Willis Tower. That's not a thing. It is the Sears Tower. I was born in Chicago. That's what it is. That's what it'll always be. There's no Willis in it. But Sears Tower, or officially Willis Tower as it's called now, but nobody from Chicago calls it that. So anyways, we have Racing Mason, who is now joining us. I'm going to bring him on the staging area. So Mason, again, welcome to the Monday Night Rewind. I know you already did one podcast just not too long ago, but now you're on the Monday Night Rewind. How are you doing?
Tour, man.
Yeah, he's on the tour. You're good?
Yeah.
How you feeling? I mean, you had all those emotions on Friday. So walk us through from the moment you had the checkered flag and did the bow. How have you been feeling since then?
I've been feeling amazing. We went up to our cabin, celebrated, and just had a bunch of fun.
So, because did you do any fishing? Because I know sometimes you guys do fishing and other things. So, what does your weekend look like?
Well, we went after I won. We drove up north. We did some fishing, did some riding, and I just got home from that actually, just to do these podcasts.
See, well, I hope we didn't cut your vacation short because you definitely, after the race that you pulled together on Friday, you definitely earned, a little bit of a celebration because we were kind of talking about with Will how you've kind of been like the silent assassin in a way, right? You've seen, Phil obviously win, you've seen Bryce win, and you just kind of been working your way, finding your way up, and then now you had the spotlight that night. So how did it feel to finally join in those ranks?
It felt amazing. I'm just thankful for all my crew just to get that car running and get that car super fast.
And Buju, I know you've gone to Kalamazoo a couple times, but I think for anyone who's been watching you, Mason, especially this year, it's not a surprise. I'm trying to be neutral as like a videographer on the roof, but if Raymond were to tell you that I was doing this as you were pushing for the front, like I try not to look like I have bias or anything especially when I'm videoing. After the races, it's all fair game. I go and talk to everybody. But as the race, I'm doing this because, I just think last year, and you'll remember this, you spun out, at Kalamazoo, and you let out a lot of words and a lot of emotions. And obviously that never made it to the public viewing, and it won't because that's not right and fair to you. But you were very vulnerable, and just, it's like you let everything out, everything that had been building all season. And then to see you where you came to this moment in time on Friday where you just raced, probably, I thought 2 weeks ago you raced your best race, and then you did that on Friday. It's like, for anyone who's been paying attention to see your journey, I mean, you've just come such a long way. So I know I'm very proud of you and what you've done. So that was not that I was rooting against other drivers, but I was certainly not rooting for you doing this on the roof, trying also not to throw the camera all over the side while doing that. So, so again, congratulations on such a huge win.
Thank you. I'm just so thankful for everybody helping me.
So do you want to talk before we get into who are you? Because obviously, there might be people watching who don't know who you are because they don't come to Kalamazoo or they're not able to. So before we get to that question, do you want to talk a little bit about who helps get you to the races, who helps get the car put together? I know you do your shop talk with Bryce that you guys put out a promo video each week to talk about the updates. So do you want to talk a little bit about who helps you get there and your sponsors?
I would like to thank DNL Transport, Diamond Auto Sales, Next Generation Lawn Care, Amsoil by Midwest Synthetics, Mark Pack Nagel Shipping, FK Rod Ends, All-Star Performance, Duco Performance, Tony LeClaire Racing, Outerwears, Landrum Springs, Sweet Manufacturing, Advanced Property, R&N Sport Trucks, Superior Bearings, and I would like to thank my papa, my Gigi, Bryce, my dad, my mom, Phil, Uncle Ron, Todd Wilcox, Bubba, Uncle Jeff, Paige, Morgan, Bryn, Aaron, and Cassidy, Aunt Ginger, and Uncle Bill.
That's a lot to remember. I'm impressed with that because I don't know that I remembered what I had for dinner like 2 weeks ago, but I mean, you just read that pretty perfectly. So, so now that you've done that and you've thanked everyone, because I thought that's a good place to start since you brought that up. Now let's back up and who's racing Mason? For those who don't know who you are.
I race in the lower part of Michigan, and I race weekly at Kalamazoo Speedway, and I'm starting to get into a travel series with the Outlaw races and the Reveal the Hammer series.
And are you excited to do the wedge racing too? Because you haven't done the wedge racing yet, have you?
No, this will be my first year in an Outlaw. My first race in an Outlaw was at Owasso Speedway for the Bob Finley Memorial.
Earlier this year, right?
Yep.
So how did I forgot to look at the results. That's my bad. I should have looked at Owasso to see how you did. But what did you think about racing in the super late models, especially at Owasso, where, I mean, that racing obviously brings the best in the business around there too. So what was going through your mind as you took on that challenge?
It's way different than just template late models and other late models. You have to be very patient. You have to be quick though, because you can't stay in the back and put around for too long and just very different.
So what makes it different? Like for those who don't know cars or like fans who like, okay, I know that's a template. It's shaped like a NASCAR. I know that's a wedge. I know it has the wedge, right? So for fans who don't know, when you're in that driver's seat, what are some of the different things that you feel as a driver?
The different things is the amount of grip that the cars have. Template late models don't have as much grip as the wedge series does because they don't have as big as tires, and the wedge series can have different kind of motors than the template series and all the other series.
And so what has been the biggest challenge? Because we were talking with Will before the show, because he read up on you and he wanted to know like who you were, and he was going to stay and hang out, but then his partner that he does this podcast with is going out of town. So they had to, as soon as he got off with us, he started recording his next podcast. So he felt awful that he couldn't stay around, but he looked up, everything about you and wanted to know who you are because he was really interested in that. So we were telling him that, not that long ago, you're a front wheel drive racer and you jumped right from front wheel drives into late models. So do you want to help fans understand even what that kind of jump is, going from that front wheel drive right into now you're racing a late model with, quite frankly, some of the best in the business at Kalamazoo at the time?
Yeah, front wheel drives and template late models is a pretty big difference. The template late models, it's rear wheel drive, so you have to be like, you can't just stand on the gas, and it's just so different. The template late models it's like not many people, but it's a big competition there.
And what, when you're growing up, right, obviously being related to Bozell's and being surrounded by racing and having a lot of family in racing and everything, what did you grow up wanting to race? Like, what were your goals that you had where now maybe you get to live some of those goals? Like, what did you want to do?
Ever since I was just a little kid watching my grandpa go around in the rocket car at Kalamazoo Speedway, I just wanted to be a race car driver from then.
And what are your future goals? Like, obviously you're doing this, right? You're racing the Outlaws, but do you ever want to find your way to doing like a NASCAR or like an ARCA, or, do you like what you're doing now and just kind of staying local?
I would love to get into NASCAR. That's my dream, getting to NASCAR, win a NASCAR race. But my goals for this year is to win a championship at Kalamazoo Speedway and get Rookie of the Year in the Reveal the Hammer series.
Ooh, and I know Bryce got that last year, right?
Yep.
So there's gonna be noise for really quick. Oop, that was bad. But anyways, I'm getting that ready. I'm going to hide it for now because I want you to kind of walk us through that here in just a little bit. I know Boozoo had a question and I stomped on him really quick, but I was doing that. But I'm like, I wanted to warn you. We were talking to Will and I forgot to get that ready. So that's my fault, production manager fault. But Boozoo, what was your question?
So Lewis was talking about you being from a racing family. You obviously grew up in Kalamazoo and tracks around Kalamazoo. And now with you racing and still being so young, you're out there with these guys that you grew up watching. So what are some of the names that you're out there racing with now that when you see that car out there, you still have that moment? It's like, man, that's kind of cool that I'm racing with so-and-so now instead of watching them.
Well, obviously my Uncle Phil, Buddy Head, Jeff Gannis, and Jared Blanchard, and all of them.
That's awesome.
Who have you always wanted to race against that you haven't had a chance to race against yet? Or when you got to race against them, you kind of felt like you had to pinch yourself. Like, man, I used to just watch you from the stands or from the pit area, and now I'm literally like lined up next to you. I'm in the same race with you.
I always wanted to race against my grandpa, but when we did get to race each other at Corgan Speedway, he whooped my butt.
That time, there, you never know, right? So other than grandpa, like, who else? Like, let's think about Victory Lane last week. You had, after you did your bow and everybody's doing hugs, you had Jeff come over, you had Brock come over. I mean, there's a lot of emotions down in that Victory Lane. And so what was it like to have championship drivers even like them? Obviously in your family, you have championship drivers, right? But to have people like them come over and show their excitement for you, what did that feel like?
It was amazing. Just have a bunch of people rooting for me, and I just can't imagine that many people are rooting for me.
Well, and that's why I wanted to pull this up. So it's not supposed to have sound. So this is just before, right? So I want you to kind of walk us through, because you're going to see, even though it's a little fast, you're going to start to see people in the pit area start cheering you on, right? And on the trailer, they're all jumping up on the trailer. I know you, again, my graphic kind of blocks some of that out, but they're jumping up on the trailer. Again, you'll see the camera kind of jerk here in just a few moments when I'm on the roof, doing this too. So walk us through all of this.
Well, I started fifth on the restart that happened, and I got to the outside, and Jared Blanchard and Buddy Head was on the inside. Jared Blanchard and Buddy Head got together, and I saw a hole on the outside. I took it, and then after I got past them two, I ducked to the inside, past Zachary Maynard, and just led the race from there.
Well, and I know I'm going to call you the battery killer, just so you know, because the few weeks ago, so Mason had an onboard camera all last year, no issues. Year before, no issues. A few weeks ago, he has a camera. Guess what happened, Buju, to the battery inside?
Gone, dead.
It blew up.
It exploded.
So it got fat inside. So I put it too far back in the car. So the week before, no issues, I moved it up a little bit more air to get to it. Last Friday, I thought in the right spot. Mason, guess what happened after Sabrina turned it on? You got about a minute and a half before it died. And I was sitting in the parking lot at Love's because I'm getting ready to post that because I'm excited for you again. Just so you know, I don't know if Phil told you, but I had tears up on the roof myself because, again, I just thought of that moment last year where you spun out, you had all these emotions, you had all these things. I came up to you that next week, you might remember, and I said, Mason, come on, like, you're good. You got to remember you're good and you can do this, right? And we had that conversation because I saw all those emotions. Well, so I go to post the damn thing. It's a minute something. I texted Sabrina going, the camera. So I get home, fat battery. So that's two cameras now that Mason's just so fast that he's going through all my GoPro batteries at a lightning speed. So he's getting camera number 7 again because he had luck with that one. And I know that's a brand new battery. Camera 7 went to someone else last week just because of my pattern in the pit area. But I'm like, not only do I feel bad because then we didn't get the onboard camera view of him doing that. At least Jared Blanchard's was working and behind, so you can still watch you win the race from Jared's point of view. But I'm like, come on. And Sabrina felt bad, and she's like, what did I do? I said, the camera, the battery. He's just so fast this year that he keeps going through my GoPro batteries here. But at least we have this. So now walk us through this moment, because this is what I wanted to show on the onboard camera as you're doing this. Walk us through this. When Andy Bozell, I'll back it up just a little bit because I know we were talking and I was venting on why you haven't seen your footage yet. It's because you keep going through my GoPro batteries here. So Andy Bozell Jr. brings up the flag. This is a Kyle Busch flag. So do you want to talk a little bit about this and what it was like, especially after the tragedy last week, to drive with that flag?
Well, we found this Kyle Busch flag in my grandpa's house, and I wanted to bring it to the track and hang it up. And I was like, if I win, I want to take this flag around the track. And once I won, my two uncles brought the flag to me and put it in my hand, and I just brought it around the track.
And again, this is where you have a whole gathering of people on the front stretch, which you can't see yet because obviously I'm focusing on you and going through crying on the roof, having all these emotions myself, because I just know, again, like I said, with you having an onboard camera, I've gotten to see you, at some moments where you were just letting out all these emotions that obviously, like I said, no one else sees. I would never put that up publicly because that's not fair. I'm not going to do that to a driver. But in this case, that was going through my mind, like, each week you've gotten better this year. And then to have this moment, to have all these people, like I said, on the trailers, they were going crazy as you were getting past. You might have seen the camera jerk a little bit, like I talked about, because I'm sitting there, waving you forward, like, go, 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 the hole opens, right? And you did take it, but it's one of those, it's like, I just know what you've worked for to do this. and have this moment. So it's like, you know, when the moment and opportunity is there and it's right, it's like, man, you just want that person to get what they've been working hard for. And thankfully, you got it. And again, that's not against any other driver, right? You know, but just for you to have that moment, that was incredible. And again, this is, you can't see in the frame yet, Buju, but there's at least 20 other people on the other side. You did the Kyle Busch bow, and now everyone's going to start coming in.
That's awesome, man.
So what do you think, again, what emotions are you going through as you watch this back?
I was like, holy crap, I just won this race.
And did you know at that time that you were the youngest in Kalamazoo history to win a late model race?
No, I did not know that.
So for those who are watching, we were talking again with Will a little bit about you. Let people know who are watching. Like I know Pitbull Racing, that's Ralph. He's down at New Paris. Benny Miller's over at Springport, Corgan Oil, Owasso, that area. So, you know, some may not know. So how, for those who don't know, how old are you?
I'm 14.
So 14, youngest late model winner in Kalamazoo history. So this has been the top division for several years now, especially as Outlaw super late models are more specialized. But again, in this division, you had Jared Blanchard, you had Buddy Head right there, who is chasing down for victory. You had Lane Head chasing down for victory. You had, of course, Maynards, and Maynards are good anywhere they go. So again, you just look at the talent in this race that you are going against. And you do that on a weekly basis. That's not like a special show. There's no extra money. That's our weekly late model class that you get to go against. And so, you know, what do you feel like, you know, you said you want to win a championship this year. So, you know, for you, what are your goals each Friday night when you get to the track that's going to ultimately help you achieve what you want to achieve later on this year?
My goal when I get to the track is just to whoop everybody's butt and win that race.
Well, and you can say, well, I saw how my grandpa did it, so I know what it looks like and what it feels like. So, you know, when you get out there, and again, you, like I said, you've been impressive this year. But Buju, what kind of questions do you have for Mason? Because I know you get to be the fan side more, so you don't get a chance to always interact with the drivers at Kalamazoo. So, you know, what are questions that you have?
So Lewis mentioned earlier the tough moment you had in the race earlier that maybe slipped through your hands. And you come from such a racing family. Who's maybe the person that you go to that calms you down in those moments where you're doubting yourself or you're frustrated and you need to get talked to? Who's the person that you lean on?
Everybody at my trailer just believes in me. They keep me motivated, and I'm just so thankful for all of them.
And you mentioned that you've been looking forward to racing with your grandpa. I've been a big fan of your grandpa since I was younger than you. So is that a realistic possibility? Do you think you and your grandpa are going to race door-to-door again? I know you've done it before, but is that going to happen again this year or sometime soon?
Hopefully it'll happen this year again. Hopefully he gets in the Lane Automotive 59 car and races me again at Kalamazoo Speedway.
Is that the number one goal right now, beat grandpa?
Yeah.
I appreciate the honesty. It would be too if I was racing late models. Your grandpa's a legend, so fair enough. What are some other goals that I know you won the championship this year? You want to race with grandpa. You said NASCAR. Maybe some other big races in the area that you'd like to add to your resume. You've got the first one under your belt, so maybe looking forward. You got a lot of wins coming. What are some big ones that you want to check off the list?
Well, I would love to just like win at least 5 races this year, and yeah, that's it. I don't really know other races that I could really want to win that much.
Fair enough. How far is the competition between you and Bryce? How much trash talk do you and Bryce go back to each other?
Not that much trash talk. We just make each other motivated, and yeah.
Fair enough. There's a lot of trash talk in my garage, so I thought maybe you and Bryce might be the same.
That's a Davis thing, though. You guys trash
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and then when you go out and you know, you bang and bump along each other, it's like, yeah, that's just the Davis family doing Davis family things. Makes it fun though for the fans.
And then one more question. Coming from that racing family, and Lewis talked about the accomplishments that family has, and Bryce has some wins under his belt. And being so young, maybe you shouldn't feel pressure, but did you feel pressure to get into victory lane and get that win under your belt, even being such a young age?
Well, after I got third at that one race, I was like, I know I could win. I know I can win. And then the next week I go and win.
Is that the time you felt? Is that when you felt like your confidence really switched over? Is like from I'm just out on the field and I'm learning until I can win a late model race.
Yeah, after that race, I was just like, holy crap, this car was so fast. I know I could win.
Fair enough.
Well, and we talked about that, Buju, what was it, last Thursday, right? We were talking about how well Mason was doing. I know it was on one of the shows that I said, man, he's just coming along, and you just feel like, man, that moment's coming, and then you did it, right? And they always say the first one is the hardest. One of the questions that Will had is, he said, was that his first late model win? And I said, that's his first late model win, but we couldn't remember if that was your first win ever, like feature win ever. So is that your first feature win, or do you have other feature wins under your belt?
That's my first ever win.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're talking about. I said, I don't feel like he had one in the front wheel drives, but my race pass wasn't loading for me earlier when I went to look, and then I forgot to check it again one more time just to do a double check. That's what I like about my race pass. You can find just about anything you want on there. But I said I was pretty sure it's his first overall win. And then again, in the top division at Kalamazoo, that's well known. I mean, Will's not been to Kalamazoo yet, but as he mentioned during our interview, he watches the highlights and see what goes on. So now you're going into this Friday. Do you feel like there's now a target on your back that you have that first win? Or do you feel like you're just going to go do your thing and try not to put pressure on yourself because now you've done it?
Well, I'm obviously going to go try to win another race, but yeah. I'm just going to try to get up in points, get to the front so I can get more points and try to win that championship.
Do you feel like there's pressure now?
Not really, no.
Not really? Okay. Good. Because sometimes, right, Buju, I saw your face, right, and sometimes that happens, right, when you get that first one, sometimes you see drivers push then, because they feel like, okay, I've done it once, now I got to do it again and do it again and do it again, and
absolutely.
You can sometimes that pressure just builds, and you may not always think about it, but then you start over driving or start doing things that you didn't do before. So that's why I asked if you're feeling the pressure yet.
No, I'm not feeling much pressure.
So what's something that Grandpa has told you, because he has a lot of wisdom? I have started to quote some of the things he's told me. So, what are some of his lessons that he's passed on to you that you keep with you, especially in the car while you're racing?
Well, just never give up. Even if you get tired, just keep pushing through.
Well, he's told me, you can sleep plenty when you're dead. So, I went, oh, that's good to know. And
same ballpark there.
Yeah. With the I literally told him a super shoot with the resume that he has, who's going to argue with him? So, so when you've heard me say that too on the show, Buju, when I'm like, I'm tired, but Andy Bozell says, and I figure if Andy Bozell says it, then that's the truth. That's the Bible we live by. So, again, I know there's a lot of respect for your family. So, as you think about now, your next late model race is coming up because you're going to Ken Ross this weekend, right?
Yep.
So do you want to talk a little bit about Ken Ross and what you're excited for? Because you're racing Friday nights, and then you're going straight up to Ken Ross overnight. So do you want to talk a little bit about what you're excited for this weekend? Not only racing at Kalamazoo, but then going up to the UP to race at Ken Ross.
I'm excited to make my debut in the Reveal the Hammer series at Ken Ross.
Have you been there before?
Nope, never been there.
Never. Do you have? Has anybody in your family been there? Because I couldn't remember if Phil has or not.
No, this is one of the only 3 asphalt tracks that Phil has not raced at in Michigan.
Wow.
And
going in with a blind brother, that's a challenge.
Have you seen the track at all? Like I had only how did I remember here? Oh, because it revealed the hammer when they announced Ken Ross. I'm like, where's Ken Ross? So I, got on the old Google machine and I looked at Ken Ross. And so I'd not heard of the track before. So what do you think the challenge will be since you're going in blind? Do you sometimes think as a driver that means no pressure? Because, hey, it's going to be what it's going to be. Or do you think there's more pressure because you're like, okay, we have to race at a high level of a track we've never been to before?
Well, obviously, it's going to be a hard race because we have big competitors, and it's going to be pretty hard for me because I'm not going to be able to get any practice on Friday because I'm racing Friday at Kalamazoo Speedway.
And didn't they say last week that some of them are already going up? Because I think Friday they have a practice session at Ken Ross. So aren't you guys doing like 2 different trips? Like you'll be racing, but some of them will already be up at Ken Ross?
Yes. So actually, we brought our trailer up to our cabin and
Okay.
up by Kinross, and my uncle and my grandpa are gonna stay there through the week. Me and my cousin came back because we have school this whole week.
Yeah. Sorry. In Indiana, where Buju is, he's in South Bend. Indiana is like out like last week, but I know obviously for us Michigan people, we go in. What your last days are probably what next week?
My last day is in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Oh my goodness. Oh,
Feature winners should get out early, Lewis.
I know.
An early summer pass.
This is the time, this is the time of year when I was teaching in the classroom, right? Like I knew, okay, we got past Memorial Day, it's 4 days, and then we had usually 2 full days and 2 half days, and we would always end next Thursday. So, this was the countdown for teachers. So that's why I was asking, because every county's a little different, and I know they had a few more snow days up there than what we did down here too. But Mason, other than that, when you think back down the road to your first win, what are some of the lessons that you want to take from this first win that you want to remember now going forward?
Well, I want to remember my first win as the hardest win because it's always the hardest. And I've always been told just because you won doesn't mean you have to get cocky.
Yes. We've seen that too, Buju, right? Like you kind of see that moment again. And I think in your pit stall, they're not going to allow you to get cocky.
Yeah.
There's a very professional organization right there who, again, they've all won at the highest level. So when you think of all the mentors around you, I mean, they've all done it at that top level. Now you and Bryce are that future generation who's starting to take over the reins and moving on up. That I don't think they're going to let you get cocky. They're going to keep you pretty grounded, because again, I think of there's champions in this area who, they have really great seasons, and then there's a season that comes around that it's just rough and everything's rough and nothing works and the car breaks down and you have all these things going on that it can be kind of humbling, where you're like, man, I was at the top of the top and now I feel like I'm just scratching to get a tire to not go flat the next time I'm out or whatever. So with that, at the same time too, when you think of now rookie of the year that you're going for and Reveal the Hammer, what are your goals then to accomplish that and Reveal the Hammer?
In Reveal the Hammer, I've obviously trying to beat my cousin, but he's whooping my butt in that class.
For now.
Yeah.
You never know. Now, so let's say you and Bryce, right, both line up with whatever car you desire. Front wheel drive, late model, shopping cart, whatever you want to do. 1 lap. Actually, let's make it 2 lap. It's a spectator race. 2 laps. Who's winning?
Me.
So what does it take to win that? Because again, you're going against Bryce. So, what do you know about Bryce that you have to use against him to win?
I don't really know. All I know is he's a great driver.
Now, your preference, you guys do choose cone, madhouse, inside, outside. How do you like to plan your race as you go through with the madhouse?
Well, like that with the choose, I like to just sit back a little bit and watch see if there's a hole. If there's a hole on the outside, if people are fast on the outside, then I'll go to the outside. And obviously, if that's on the inside, I'll go to the inside.
I've always wondered that, because sometimes there are drivers that they'll switch it every single time they do the choose cone. I'm like, I mean, it makes sense, the strategy, but sometimes you've seen them overcorrect a strategy where you're like, oh boy, they just got sucked in that wind tunnel and they went all the way back. So, because you never know, Kalamazoo, things happen so fast, especially coming out of turn 2. It's like that seems where people fall off if they make that mistake. But for people who don't know Kalamazoo, ever race Kalamazoo, how would you describe racing at Kalamazoo to someone who's coming to the first time? You do it every week, but there are people who've never been there, never raced there. So how would you describe that to people? What it's like racing at Kalamazoo?
There's no really track like it. It's just it's like really different than other tracks. You have to drive every corner different. You can't drive the corner the same.
What corner's the trickiest?
The trickiest, I don't really think a corner is that tricky from the other one, but probably 3 and 4 for me.
What are the tracks have you raced so far, Mason?
I've raced at Kalamazoo Speedway, Owasso Speedway, Corgan Oil, no. I've raced at Galesburg, and yeah, that's it.
Okay.
And what's your favorite? That, again, I know you race at Kalamazoo every week, but it doesn't have to be your favorite if you like other ones. So what's your favorite that stands out to you that you just like either being at as a fan or racing?
Well, the most one I like racing at is Kalamazoo, but I just like any racetrack I get to go to.
That's good. Because quarter mile racing and 3/8 mile racing, sometimes that's the difference too. Like quarter miles where I got started as a media person, so I always kind of like that tight bull ring racing, but the 3/8 you can spread out a little bit. Because you raced at Springport too, didn't you, or not yet?
Oh yes, I've raced at Springport.
Because that 3/8 is not the same as any other 3/8 in the area. That that paper clip, man, I'm so glad that Donnie has that back, because I cannot wait, even if I'm just a fan, to get back to Springport. I love that track. What did you think about Springport? Because again, that banking at Springport's way different than a lot of other places.
Yeah, it's a special track. The corners there are kind of the same. It's just you have to run the specific line to be fast there.
Now, Buju, I know there was something else that you're going to ask. I didn't want to cut you off.
What's another track that you want to run at some point? What's a big one on your bucket list?
Angola I want to run at, and probably Toledo or Winchester.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Winchester would be a whole nother animal those bankings would make Springport look like a speed bump in Walmart parking lot. I've seen so many pictures. I've never been to Winchester, Mason, but seeing pictures of Winchester, I'm like, man, I stood at the top of Bristol, and I think some people have said that Winchester makes even Bristol look a little tame. So I'm like, I was tired climbing up to Bristol's top bank there, that with John Trudell and Andrew Ritter, we all climbed to the top there, and I went, I'm a little tired. This was steep. Now, is there a track that you've gone to as a fan? Like you talked about Toledo and all that, and Winchester. Is there a track that you've gone to as a fan that you think back that maybe you're like, man, I want to get there and race sometime too? Because I know, or even a track that doesn't exist anymore that you've wanted to try or you wish you could have tried.
I don't really know of tracks that don't exist. The one track that I haven't raced at in the Michigan and Indiana area is New Paris.
Oh, yeah. And we need to get you down to New Paris.
Yeah,
they don't do template racing. Yeah, they don't do template racing there. But you will be reveal the hammer, so you'll be able to race there for the Sizzler.
Yeah, I'll be racing the Sizzler, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I hope so, because I'll be at the Sizzler. So that would be, so here's a question from Phil. Where did Give It the Beans come from?
The Give It the Beans came from actually my car last year. Phil actually used to race, and he used to race it at Galesburg Speedway. And when he was about to go out to the track, I said, "Give it the beans." And he's like, "What does that mean?" I said, "It means go fast." And that race he won.
Oh, so now that just stays, right? Because it's almost like Bryson, isn't there like Skittles after he races or wins? Isn't there like him and Billy Shannon did like Skittles and all that kind of deal?
Yeah, last year Billy Shannon and him had a Skittle war. They would put Skittles in each other's cars, and after Bryce won the championship, Billy put a bunch of Skittles in his driver's seat, and we went to Springport, and the guy that was racing behind Bryce said there were Skittles popping out from behind his car.
Leave it to Billy Shannon to come up with that, right? I remembered that because I was videoing and there were Skittles going all over the place, and I'm like, where did they get all the Skittles? I mean, there's like hundreds of Skittles. It wasn't like a little Skittle bath. It was hundreds of Skittles. I thought, man, now, so give it the beans, right? That's kind of like, do you have any superstitions then? Do you have anything that you do that you have to do the same routine before you go race, or you have to buckle up the same way, or put on your race gloves the same way, or whatever a superstition may be?
Not really. Just I've always said give it the beans because that one race.
Yeah, but that's why I'm asking, because when you have something like that, it's almost like, oh, hey, that worked this time. I've had that with T-shirts before, where not that I was on the softball field, but the team that I was following, and they were going to state championships. As they were winning each time, I did the same things, even though I had no impact on anything that team did. But that was my part as a fan. I did my part. And they won this championship. So I'm like, it must have worked. Not that, again, I had anything to do with it, but those superstitions, sometimes I do have things where I'm superstitious. I do that with my video camera. After it fell off the roof at New Paris last year, I do things a little different. So I have my own superstitions with that, so it doesn't fall off the roof anymore. And so far I have been lucky. So no superstitions. What about, do you do any like joking around or something to keep you loose at the track? Because you always seem to just be happy, in a good mood, ready to go. Like, what keeps you loose?
Well, my cousin's always cracking jokes, so yeah, and Phil's always cracking jokes to me. We just always are having a good time.
Because it doesn't, I mean, you could tell when like things are getting serious in that pit area, because they definitely have a game face on, and it's like, okay, I'm not going to stop in the pit now because game mode has been engaged. But beyond that, I mean, even after your win last week, you're in the pits being Mason, right? You're just joking around. Obviously, you were the center of attention for a lot of people because they wanted to come congratulate you again. I know you can't quite see it in all the video, but people are jumping up and down on their trailers as you're going, especially on that Bozell trailer where they were jumping down and cheering. But you're just still you. And I thought that was pretty cool too, where you didn't look like you were stressed or overwhelmed or anything. You just had the same smile that you always do, the same kind of easy going. So how do you keep yourself so grounded like that, especially when you're racing in such a fast car, other than the joking and all that? Like, how do you keep yourself in the moment?
Because I just like to stay humble. I like to have fun and just joke around, but when it's time to get serious, I like to get really serious and get to work.
What's your game face look like?
I don't really. I can't really put it on right now. When I'm racing,
yeah. Yeah. So other than that, there's one other thing that I wanted to ask, because again, for a lot of our audience who watches, they may not get a chance to watch you because they're at other tracks on a Friday night, or they don't get a chance to come to Kalamazoo. And there's one other with that. Music. So BAM, there's a couple people who have different musics that they listen to that kind of get them. So do you do any kind of music or any kind of thing, that gets you motivated or pumped up, ready to go on race day?
Well, I don't really listen to music before I go race, but if we have a good race day and on my way back from the track, my cousin likes to play white girl bangers on the way home from the track. like Party in the USA or last Friday night.
Hey, that's good taste.
So that what I'm hearing is that we need to get Joel the next time Bryce wins a race to play Party in the USA. That's what I'm hearing. Not the other music that he plays that he's ready for. And that's who we haven't seen tonight in the chat yet, is Joel. So I'm going to fire him just so he knows that. But that's what we're going to have to pass this on to Joel. Next time Bryce wins, Party in the USA. That's what it's going to have to be, just to throw him off a little bit there. Now, so you don't really listen to music on race day, but you do have a tradition afterwards that everyone part of the team does on Friday nights just before you guys pack up and get ready to go. So do you want to talk a little bit about your Fireball Friday tradition that the pit has?
Me and my cousin don't do it because we're underage, but every time we have a good race day or it's Friday night, they like to do that. It's just a tradition that we only do every week.
But you could do it with like Gatorade or something.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Because obviously, disclaimer, right? Since we're on public airways, because we're underage, we can't do that. But that, I mean, when I'm packing things up on the roof, I hear you guys. I mean, it's loud and clear from that area of Fireball Friday. I'm like, oh, they did it again, and I didn't get a chance down to, because I just need to leave my stuff on the roof and get down really quick and be like, if it blows off, it's okay. it's done it before and lived to tell about it. But other than that, that's where I thought, traditions. Do you have any other traditions that you guys do on like a race day, or do you have, like, sometimes if you think about teams, like obviously in your family, there's also the sports side outside of racing, softball and all these things going on. So do you guys do any like team dinners, or do you have anything that you go to the shop and you watch film or video just to prepare for the next week that's like a tradition?
Well, obviously we use Top Rail Media racing videos. Like my grandpa shows me like the lines I should use when the videos, because the videos are very helpful to us racers to show the lines and show how like we should be running and all that.
Well, that's where you'll see on Jared's. I wish I could show yours, but you keep going through my battery. So, you're getting camera 7 again, because I know that's a brand new battery, and you did third the last time you had camera 7. So I already know Friday, if you want a camera, which usually you do, you're getting number 7, because we're just not going to play with these batteries anymore. I know that's a new battery. It just came in the mail not too long ago. So that's the camera you're going to get. Bryce gets 5, and I know that's a new camera too, or not new camera, but new battery. So we're just not going to have you blow up my batteries anymore. But with Jared Blanchard, so when you go to do film study, he's right on you the whole time. So you'll get to watch everything that you did from that perspective, at least. So, and obviously the overhead video. What do you think about the audio? I'm still battling some of the audio, like getting it to balance out perfectly. But what does the audio help you at all as you're watching, or do you guys mute it and just watch the race itself?
Well, the audio actually helps some, because like the pitch of the exhaust changes the closer you get to the wall.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I'm still fighting the audio at Kalamazoo to get it to balance just right. I don't have that issue at New Paris, but where Joel has to stand, I'm like, okay, I still need to balance out his microphone to my microphone. So I'm still working on that. But other than that, the audio this year, I've had a lot of drivers say that it helps them kind of know too, what point in the race, so they can go back and say, hey, my car was doing this. What lap was that? So I know that's been helpful too. But it's almost 9 o'clock, and you said that you were just on vacation and did all those things, and traveled back. So I know it's been a long trip for you guys, and you have a busy week ahead. So again, this Friday, everyone can see you at Kalamazoo Speedway. You'll be racing the template late model. Then you're driving up on Saturday and doing Reveal the Hammer with the Outlaw late model. So if you're tired on Saturday, people would understand why, because what was it, a 3-hour drive, 4-hour drive?
It up to the cabin we have, which we're going to, is a 3-hour drive, and then I think it's like 2 hours to an hour drive to the race.
That's like driving from where I live to Green Bay and then some. Because I'm 4 hours, 4.5 hours to Lambeau Field. Not that I'm a Packer fan, but when my brother,
that's me to Will Greenwell.
Yeah. So that's a long drive. So if you're tired on Friday, people would understand. But obviously, when you get in the car, you won't be tired. So you also said that you're competing for a championship at Kalamazoo. You have a goal of racing at New Paris this year. So the 2 schedules that fans can follow you at will obviously be Kalamazoo, then Reveal the Hammer. So social media, how can they keep up with everything that you're doing?
Well, on social media, you can search up ABR Racing, Bryce Bozell, and Mason Metzger on Facebook, and we will tell you when we're racing, what time the races start, and all that.
Where did the shop talk come from? Before we let you go, because you guys do your little shop talk that each week, where you and Bryce kind of go over the results and everything that you did. So where did that start?
Well, me and Bryce had an idea of like, let's tell them how our week went, so we can tell them when to come and how our week went.
Yep. Buju, you're going to ask something. Did I cut you off again?
No.
No, okay. You kind of had that movement where I cut you off.
You're talking about him being tired on Saturday. I said his grandpa said you can sleep when you're dead. So
yeah.
Send it Saturday too, brother.
Yeah, I learned that lesson. I've kept that lesson with me. I'm like, hadn't thought about that before, but I guess it makes sense when it comes out. But again, obviously on social media, and you guys have been, that's something Drew, Jack, and I, he wasn't able to make it tonight, but that's what Drew, Jack, and I have talked about before, is you guys do an incredible job with your social media. You're always promoting the tracks where you're going. It's easy for people to know where you are. And I mean, even when you're at the South Bend Auto Show, you helped me a lot by helping to promote the South Bend Auto Show, and that helped, get a lot of people from the Kalamazoo area down, to South Bend, because part of our goal of being at Kalamazoo is getting that exposure for our drivers at a show like that. And so I know that was your first show experience, and you got a trophy on top of that. So before I let you go, let's kind of rewind back to March. What did you think about being in an auto show for the first time, and then first time ever you go home with the trophy?
I thought it was great meeting a bunch of fans there. I met this one girl that was a Andy Bozell fan since she was like 6, and it was just so fun meeting all the fans. If we go again, you guys can check it out at South Bend Auto Show in South Bend.
Yeah, my goal is each year to have us at the Kalamazoo show, and I'm always looking for cars, so I don't know who I'm going to be hitting up first. It's just always tough because that's also during spring break for a lot of people. But next year it's mid-April. They moved it to mid-April, so I'm like, well, that won't be spring break, but that'll be practice sessions and all these things. So I'm like,
gonna be tough.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But again, their market is more show cars and all that kind of deal, not so much race cars. We're kind of just in the back corner, but but we bring a lot of people. So, but again, Mason, I know you had that big trip, so I don't want to keep you too much longer. We've already kept you 50 minutes here, and I know you were on just a little bit before that. So again, definitely good luck this Friday. That was, again, exciting to watch. I even made a post. I don't know if anyone showed you it, but I made a post where there's not a whole lot of things that make me cry, even though I'm an emotion on my sleeve guy. There's not a whole lot of things, but when you did that and you pulled through and watching all the emotions, it's kind of like when Alex Sexton won last year, watching Taylor Sexton jump up and down and their family getting excited for Alex. Watching that, it's like, when you get to go to weekly track and you get to watch people grow, you have a lot of care for people. And so I have a lot of care for our drivers at Kalamazoo, and I'm excited when anybody wins, but especially, my first thought was onboard camera last year when you spun and let out all these emotions to where you are now. It's like, I don't know, that just got me all in the feels. So not too many people do that. So congratulations, Mason. You found the red button that got the waterworks going, but I was just so happy for you. And I know hundreds of other people were too. So again, congratulations on your win.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Man.
All right. Well, we'll definitely let you get going because you got school tomorrow. So I know it's a school night for you. Not for me. I retired from that, so I don't have to do that. But again, good luck this Saturday, and I'll see you on Friday for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mason. Again, we've been talking with Racing Mason after his first victory ever, career victory, over at the Kalamazoo Speedway. You can see him again this Friday night at the Kalamazoo Speedway. On Saturday, if you want to head up to the UP, he's at Ken Ross Speedway racing in the Outlaw Super Late Model for the second time, which we'll talk about on the Thursday Night Throttle. So you can come and join us on Thursday at 7 p.m. as we preview the upcoming weekend of events across the area. We'll also include the Ken Ross trip just because so many of our drivers from down here are heading up. I even think Rich Bull is heading up to Ken Ross or was talking about it. So that'll be pretty exciting. So again, Bougie and I are back on Thursdays, and you've been watching the Monday Night Rewind. So Bougie, before we get going, we have about 4 minutes or so. Any weekend updates that you want to highlight? We talked about doing like a weekend shout out. So any last shout outs for you?
Like I said at the beginning of the show, but shout out to Angola Speedway for getting the show in as they promised. They had a very uphill battle on Saturday, and they battled through it and made it happen. So kudos to them. I had another one, and boy, did I forget it. So, Cameron McCrudden, my driver that I sponsored, picked up his first A feature win on Friday.
Oh,
big
good
for him. It was a messy feature. My God, was it a messy feature? That's a topic for another day. Yeah. But shout out to Cameron coming up on top because he's out there sending it. And proud of him, happy for the kid. He got his first A feature win. That's always cool. Just like Mason, happy for my driver.
Was that front wheel drives? Is that what he's in?
Hornets.
Yep. See, these Michigan tracks are training me. I
got you.
Say Hornets anymore, although I do at New Paris, but it's still sometimes it feels weird because it's like all my vocabulary in Michigan is front wheel drives or ABC, and then obviously New Paris is a holdout on that. M40 is a holdout on that. So, I still have the vocab that I have to use, but every now and then I'm like, can we all just switch it? I get it though. Every track has their right to do their sandbox things. So I'm not criticizing them. It's just from a vocab Like, I'm so glad that this year Kalamazoo dropped the outlaw from the outlaw limited late models. Like, we just call them limited late models now. They're not even outlaws, even though they are the outlaw style. But
yeah, that's another ball game too. Is the limited late models and the different names those have around here. That confuses me. It's like, what late models am I seeing tonight exactly?
Yeah. So yeah, and I even this year I just dropped template too. I just did late models and limited late models. I thought that's pretty easy. You know, that's kind of you know, because sometimes you get them called sportsmen too. So so that's where that when I went to Springport, they called them sportsmen late models, but at Kalamazoo they were template late models. So I'm like, let's just make it easy for the fans from my graphic standpoint. And everyone's a template late model if you race in this class. It just makes, I know there's a difference, and but it just makes it easier. But do you know how many times I posted the outlaw limited late models and I get so many comments? How can it be an outlaw and limited? And I'm like, I'm just tired of explaining this. You know, it's not a super, it's limited, but they look the same. How about that? That's the easy way to explain it. But again, I know we talked last Thursday about Mason, and then for him to do what he did on Friday, I don't know if you'd had a chance to watch the video or not, but
no.
that was the pass for the lead. And again, that's where Sabrina, I texted her right away in the Love's parking lot. It was raining and I was getting the camera and wanted to post that. And I went, Sabrina, it's not there. And she felt so awful because she's like, well, I turned it on. I'm like, I know, I have proof that you turned it on. And I do want to do a shout out again to Sabrina. She's been really the only photographer the last couple weeks. Kendall's been working a lot of overtime at her other job. And so that's limited her being able to come on Fridays. But that's for Sabrina. You know, she's there to help with my onboard cameras. That's, you know, what she comes for. And then I make her, you know, bring her camera. I always tell her, girl, we need to get you opportunities with this camera. So bring your camera, take shots as you can, but everyone knows your primary responsibility during features, you know, to get the onboards on and help collect, that nobody is going to question you if you're not taking photos, because you're literally there helping with that. But she's been doing it all. She's been taking victory lane. She's been taking action shots. She's been turning on board cameras. And then as she gets time, goes and collects the cameras. And then luckily her boyfriend, Peter, is up top and he helps collect those cameras up top, you know, which has been a huge help because they're not trapped. It's a lot easier for them to leave than it is in the infield. So I just want to do another shout out to Sabrina. And I hope people are realizing and noticing the amount of work and things that she's balancing to get not only race photos, but victory lane photos, but then to manage the onboards. And, you know, I keep telling her, not last week, but the week before, I dropped it down to 15. I'm like, I can't have you running around in a sweatshirt. I'm sweating seeing you in a sweatshirt and it's hot, right? I can't do that to you. That's not fair, right? And so I dropped it down to 15. Last week, I went back to 19. This week, we'll probably be back at 19 just because it gets more opportunity. And I hate, you know, cutting drivers off, especially if I know that I have cameras just sitting there. But most people have been understanding, like, I got Sabrina and she's managing all this. So again, Kendall will be back once all of her overtime is done. But, you know, making it from Elkhart to Coloma back to Kalamazoo, by the time races start, you know, it's tough with all the construction. So, but in the meantime, that's why I wanted to shout out Sabrina, because again, she's taken on a lot and managing a lot and hasn't missed a camera. The time that, or last week missed one camera, but that was my fault because the driver usually races a red car, but they were racing a gold car that night. So she's not looking for the gold car because they're always in the red car. So she did miss one, but that's not often. And so the fact that she gets all the cameras and none of them have left the property, I just want to do that shout out because she makes it so much easier for me to be able to do what I do while she manages that part. Because there's just no way at Kalamazoo that I'd be able, humanly possible, to be able to get from the roof down, get them all turned on and race back up. It's just Springport, I was able to do it because of where everything was situated and there wasn't a lot of obstacles. But at Kalamazoo, I got to get down one ladder, get down all the steps, come all the way around. And now that, you know, it's not, I tried it and I almost got trapped down there one time. So it's like, it's just not mathematically possible. So anyways, I hope you have a great rest of your Memorial Day. Like my stepdad earlier said, well, happy Memorial Day. And I at 6 a.m. this morning when I was still editing stuff, I'm like, I had that random thought, which if you love history, on the History Channel, they have a 20-part World War II with Tom Hanks. It's already recording. That's what I'm going to be watching tonight, the first 3 episodes. So once we're done, I'm going to watch that.
Interesting.
And
that does interest me.
yeah, it's from the 21st century perspective, too, of looking back to how all the events folded with Tom Hanks. So again, that it's started at 8 o'clock. So 8, 9, and 10 are the first 3 episodes. And then it's a 20-part series. So that's what I'm doing as soon as I get off here is I'm watching those. Yeah. Sorry, Monday Night Raw, you'll have to wait. But my Bob had said, well, happy Memorial Day. And I kind of, at my 6 a.m. thinking thought, I'm like, as I'm making stuff, I'm like, why is it happy Memorial Day?
Yeah.
Sad day.
When I made the post on my page, I was like, I almost say happy Memorial Day. And it's like, it doesn't feel like the right thing to say.
like it's happy because we have these freedoms, and we know that these people get into this. Our soldiers who go and sacrifice for our freedoms, like we know that they know what they're signing up for. Sorry, there's a really loud truck.
Damn.
Well, they're lucky the deer didn't run out in front of him. Otherwise, we would have heard it too. By the way, because there's a really huge male deer that's been running through the yard and everything. So he's really glad he didn't, because we're out in farm field. I mean, the Cook nuclear plant's not too far from me. So I always tell people, it's not tornadoes I'm worried about here. It's the nuke plant. If the nuclear plant has a meltdown or whatever, I'm in zone 1. I'm just done. So just but yeah, I mean, the fact that you can hear that, it's like, I hope the deer don't run out in front of you, but I kind of do. But anyways, I know you're a history person, so I wanted to share that. But that's where I had that random thought in the morning, like, happy Memorial Day, but it's not really a happy day. But I guess it's kind of a happy day because we get to live our freedoms, but we live our freedoms because people sacrifice their life. So is that really a happy thing or not? But I don't know. At 6 a.m., I have a lot of random thoughts after that. So I don't know. Maybe that makes sense to other people too. Like, I don't know. I thought I'd share that. It's a random thing.
Speaking of documentaries, you mentioned the Tom Hanks thing. I did finally finish writing the next Bull Ring Chronicles episode. I recorded part of the voiceover too. So that'll be out soon. People have been asking me about that. I know I've been kind of dragging feet a little bit. So that's coming soon. It's going to be on a few of the lost tracks of Indiana. Oh,
sorry. That
scared me.
I went to press a button and I did the wrong thing. So again, I was just getting ready because I figured we started with taps, that's how we'll end our show with taps and then end the stream. But I wasn't cutting you off, by the way.
I played me off like the Oscars.
No. Well, Bougie, it was great knowing you, but anyway, no, it's like, but no, that's my fault because I hit it in the staging so I can move Will over and everything, and then I forgot that I need to bring it back, but when I do, the sound comes with it. That's why, you need to fire me as the production manager because I don't know what I'm doing half the time. Yeah. But anyways, you agreed with that, so I'll remember that. But anyways, again, awesome show. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who watched. Again, like this, share it out. It's free to do that, by the way. It helps us continue to grow. We have a lot of awesome guests coming up. Drew Jack is working on a really special one for us, possibly in the next week or two, who has NASCAR connections. So that's what I'll say. I won't say more because I'm not allowed to legally. But but it, and it's getting dark in my room too, so it is time for us to go. But we may have someone who has been in a NASCAR, raced in NASCAR, won in NASCAR. So just maybe not. It's not official yet. That's why I said I legally cannot say more, but it is something that we are working on. So we'll know more soon, and I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to keep it a secret.
I don't even know. So
I won't surprise you, but let's just say once you hear the name, you'll know the name. Because then I'll tell you once I'm legally allowed to.
Okay, fair enough.
Victor may be coming back on here in a few weeks too, just before the Hartford Night of Destruction. Victor, Jeremy Templeton, and Phil may get on, and then I know Ralph has talked about getting on, and I definitely want to get the Stremmies on here because it's cool. Dynamite Dylan Stremmie did the Night of Destruction the other day at New Paris, so it's always great when a Stremmie's on the property. I've said that many times. So, but other than that, like we started the show, do you have anything else good for the group?
No, sir. I think we covered it.
All right. So like we started the show, I'm going to get rid of all the graphics because this is more than us. We're going to end with taps just like we began with taps. So again, Buju, thank you for the show. Thank you for everyone watching. For now, we'll see you on Thursday for the Thursday Night Throttle, because it's almost time to turn left and go fast.
Because we'll see you at the races.
See everyone at the races again. Remembering those who have made the ultimate sacrifice.